For those of you that don't know, my name is Dr. Meg, and I am your I am your director of student care. So part of what I do is oversee all of the mental health and wellness for you guys. I talk a lot about it. I know you guys are probably sick of hearing me talk about it all the time. So what we're going to do for you today is have a panel, okay? A panel of some very esteemed faculty that work with you guys every day, but also have a lot of experience in the field as well. And we're just going to give you guys an opportunity to ask them questions. So on the screen, you guys will see a text number, and you're going to text WJU Care to that number, okay? It'll prompt you, and then you'll text your question, okay? So if you guys have a question that you want the panel to answer, follow the instructions up there, and I'll get the message while I'm up here on stage. We collected some Monday night, so we're gonna start with those. But before I go any further, of course, I wanna introduce our panel to you. So we have Dr. Stephaine Caine, Dr. Melanie Trowbridge, and Dr. Erin Ambrose, who are going to be the ones answering the questions. I am not going to answer very many questions for you guys today. I would like for you to hear from them, okay? So let's get started with the first question. Sound all right? Well, actually, you guys introduce yourselves. Give them a little spiel.
All right, I'll get started. As you know, I'm Dr. Stephaine Caine, and this is my first year here at Jessup, and it's been awesome being here with you all. In the psych department, I primarily work with the fieldwork program, and and the online psych program as well. When I look over my career, I've mainly worked with teens and young adults, and have done a lot of work with anxiety and depression, as I'm sure many therapists would agree is a major part of our work. All right.
One nice thing about Stephanie, she's a gem. She's our newbie. She's seasoned. But now I'm not the newbie in our department. So I'm Melanie Trowbridge, and I probably have had some of you in either developmental, abnormal, or biopsych. I'm mainly in TUG, but I teach across all the platforms, and I love it. But my heart's for you guys, especially for TUG students, for undergraduate. But I love to see you right at the beginning and then at the end and then in our master's program. It's all good. Love it. Outside of Jessup, I am a child, adolescent, and adult psychiatrist. So I love that doctor-patient relationship as well. And I think it helps me be marketable to you. So looking forward to chatting with you.
So I'm Erin Ambrose, and I have been here a long time, actually. I've been here 12 years. And also teach in primarily TUG, intro, interpersonal, cognitive, cross-cultural, had lots of you in those classes, and then also teach in the master's program. And I also, outside of Jessup, have a life too. Is it possible to have a life outside of
Crazy, right?
Crazy. So I have a private practice in Roseville as well, so when I'm not here on campus, then I'm seeing clients there, and again, just want to see students and also my clients just live productive lives, healthy lives, happy lives, enjoyable lives. So hopefully we can help you with some of that today.
Awesome, thank you guys. So let's dive in with the first question. Anybody can answer. How do you deal with anxiety, stress, or feeling alone in your thoughts or surroundings?
I think the first thing is that I just want to normalize it for you, that I would venture to say that everyone, if not most of us in this room, have had periods in our lives where we felt alone in our thoughts and our anxiety. And depending on what is triggering us to be anxious, we can get so consumed by that. So first I want to normalize that. And when we normalize it and we realize that other people experience it too, then it leads us to turn to each other and learn how to communicate with each other, find people who you think you can be vulnerable with or comfortable with. Sometimes that means taking a risk, and so that you can help each other. And I just think we're our strongest tools that we have next to the Lord to help us get through these times. think you guys.
Yeah, I was going to just add to that, that we weren't meant to be alone. We were created to be in relationship. And that's not just during the happy times. That's also during the times when we are not feeling great. And so finding safe people to reach out to is really important.
What if you're really, really busy and you feel like I don't have time to do that?
You don't have time not to do that. You'll be more productive in that really, really busy life if you also reach out and have better kind of emotional health.
And I think like sometimes you can be so consumed that you don't even have the strength to reach out, or you can't see to reach out. And that's where we need to be better friends to each other or take care of each other, where when we see that we're struggling or people around us or somebody we know is struggling, that we take that extra step and be a little bit more diligent in reaching out to people when they don't have the energy or strength to reach out to others.
Some of you guys know this statistic, but more than 50% of us, so if you just take a look at everybody in this audience representing the world, right? More than 1 in 2, so more than 50% of us are going to experience some kind of major mental health disorder sometime in our lifetime. It's normal, right? Even though it's abnormal, it's normal that we experience that. Guess what the number one issue is? Stress and anxiety, followed really closely by depression. So most of the time, that's what we're talking about because it's so common. So just know you are not alone. It is the norm to experience that. So what do we do about it? Some of you also know this statistic. The healthier you are below the neck, the healthier you are above the neck. So what 3 things can we do to stay healthy? Sleep. Do you guys know what that is? Really?
Y'all are laughing like, doesn't happen.
Exercise. And eat a good diet. Seems like no-brainer, but especially going into finals, nice Thanksgiving time coming up, right? Eat good meals, get some sleep. So if I'm here to reduce the guilt a little bit, if you're thinking about, should I study and pull an all-nighter or should I sleep? Sleep. Do your studying too, but everything in moderation, right? You need those 3 things to be healthy above your neck, so you got to stay healthy below your neck too.
Amen. That's really good. We've had some questions come in about how to balance all of this: school, life, relationship with God, eating good. So that's really good. Thank you, guys. Next question. Let's see. What does self-care look like?
It's likely going to look different for each person. You know, we don't all find the same things nurturing to us. So you don't have to do self-care like your roommate. It may be that you need to discover for yourself what works for you. For me, it's exercise. If I find time outside specifically, that is really important for me. But I know that's not for everybody.
Some of you might think, what does that look like when I get stressed? Well, what does it look like when you're not stressed? Most of the time, things, when we are stressed, start falling off our plates that are important, like, I don't have time to maintain my social relationships. I don't have time to maybe go to my small group or church or read my Bible or have my devotional with the Lord, or, fill in the blank. Usually we are able to do those things when life isn't stressful, but somehow when we do get stressed, those important things start to fall off the edges of that plate. So I'd encourage you, whatever those things are, keep them on the plate. Right? Keep doing the things that you know what to do during those times of stability and resilience.
So we've had a couple questions come in about how to explain to somebody else or tell somebody else that you're struggling with depression or anxiety. What does it look like to actually share that with somebody? And then on the flip side, how can somebody help a person who may be struggling with depression or anxiety?
I think it's important to acknowledge that it is a very courageous thing to do. It's hard to be vulnerable with people not knowing how they react. Thankfully, over the years, there's more conversation taking place about mental illness and mental health, and the field and society where we're just working really hard to try to make that be something that is in the forefront of our conversations. But at the same time, it doesn't change the fact that we we worry what people will think about us if we share that we're struggling. And I think this brings us back to our first point, is recognizing that everybody is struggling with something, and everybody will have a major struggle at some point in their lives. You're just having yours now. And more than likely, when you talk to somebody, they either have been through it or in it, or they at least have been vulnerable enough in their lives to know that they will go through it at some point. So it looks like you thinking of somebody who you can trust. And let's say you go, I can't think of anybody close in my life I can trust. Then go to a professional. You know, if you're here, then you've got Dr. Meg. I'm Dr. Meg. You've got professors in the psych department. You are surrounded by people who are experts and passionate and have a heart for that field. And even if you don't know us and you've never talked to us, just know that we work with people who we've never talked to before all the time. And just come to us, because at least you have that anonymity of knowing, like, hey, I can try it with them, and they've seen it all more than likely over our careers, and the truth is we have. So we're not going to be easily rattled. So if you can't think of somebody who you can be close to talk to, come to a professional.
Let's see. Let's dive into some faith questions. I'm looking at our texts that are coming in, and we've got a lot of questions about faith. So one of them was, let's go to this. How do we trust in God while there's no guarantee that God is going to fix our mental or emotional struggles?
Those are the same kinds of questions that we all have, and we're all sitting here thinking, you know, there's not a one-size-fits-all. The only one-size-fits-all is that we know we have the promise that He will do that, but maybe not in the way that we expect. We all know that it will work together for good somehow, but what does that good equate to? Sometimes we have our own ideas of what that good looks like, or what that fix looks like, and that's not always the case, right? So many times when I'm seeing a new patient or somebody who's coming in, they'll have that question, and they'll have the question not only for themselves, but maybe for a child that they're bringing in. When they tell their story, the concern is, what do I do now? So yes, we have to talk about what we're doing now and what the issue is at that particular point. But also we have to look at the chronic. You know, sometimes old habits die hard. And if we just start to take a look at some of the things that may be hindering us, what does that look like? Not just acutely, but what does that look like over a period of time or over the course of time? A little bit here will make a big difference as we practice that later on. So the Lord is faithful, and He is gracious, and He helps us not only in His communication with us personally, but as we seek that help out with wise counsel wherever we find that, and that will encourage and make our faith even more resilient as we see Him working. We just have to hold on to that promise while we're in the midst of it, right?
One of my favorite scriptures is that God is near the brokenhearted. I love that because it acknowledges He knows we're going to be brokenhearted, right? Many of you have heard me say this. It's a lovely day, but we're not in heaven yet, right? So we go through a lot of junk, and sometimes we end up with broken hearts, but He is near our broken heart. And He'll stay near our broken heart, even though the healing may take longer than we anticipated.
That's really good. I like that. And I know for some of you guys, when I've had an opportunity to meet with you and we talk about counseling, and especially faith-based counseling, a lot of what I hear is, I don't want the counselor to tell me to just pray about it or give it to God. You know, we hear those phrases a lot, and I think what you guys said really addresses a lot of that, so thank you. We had a question come through about resources and what we offer on campus, and So we do offer on-campus counseling for you guys, and it's all you have to do is you can either email care@jessup.edu if you have questions about it or you would like to sign up. We also offer off-campus counseling as well. Our off-campus partner is faith-based, so if you prefer faith-based counseling, you can sign up with our off-campus partner. Again, you can email care@jessup.edu, or if you go to My Jessup and you go to the student care landing page, there's information there with regards to not just counseling resources, but all of the resources that student care provides too. So let's get into another deep question. Can weed, the marijuana, can it help with my mental illness?
I think the problem with weed or any substance that is not prescribed to you is that whenever you depend on something outside of the Lord, outside of yourself, and it is not prescribed to you by a doctor, then that is not healthy. So if you lean on weed on a regular basis to help level out your emotions or your mental state, and that becomes something that you use, it takes you away from what you should be leaning on in a healthy way, and that is the Lord, the people around you who are there to support and love you, the experts who are there to help you.
There absolutely is a place for medication.
Right.
Right, and Melanie, you can speak towards that, but the cannabis industry is going to tell you yes to that question. They want to make money. And there's a lot of that being promoted right now. But there's not the research to back that up. There are not controlled studies, peer-reviewed, actual studies that backs that up. The cannabis industry is pushing that pretty heavily. You have to look at what their reasoning is.
That's right. That doesn't mean that the research isn't going on, and it is. Is there a place for some of the cannabis products? Yeah, seizure disorder is one of them, under prescription. Some of our mental health is being looked at by a prescription, but I can tell you just from a mental health, psychiatry, medication look among us as peers, many of our patients who have anxiety and depression, it makes it worse. And here's how it makes it worse. Not in the moment, but soon after that moment, days pass, it doesn't mix well with medication, and it doesn't mix well with the actual disorder, such as anxiety and depression. It can actually make us more anxious and more depressed. And I see that in my practice and in the practices of my peers as well.
We're seeing that a lot, actually. Unfortunately, and I'm sure you've seen this too, it's like this vicious cycle, thinking that weed is going to make this better, so they just keep, and then it just gets a worse problem. And if they still think it's going to make it better, they just keep trying more and more, and it actually is making that a whole lot worse.
Thank you. So let's stay on the topic of addictions. We had a couple questions come through about dealing with sex addictions and pornography. Can you guys speak to that?
What is the actual?
They struggle with it. Okay. So this is something that they struggle specifically with porn addiction.
Okay.
And what do I do?
Yeah.
Is what they asked.
Yeah. There's great resources out there. Again, you don't need to struggle on your own. Talking to someone who you trust is a really helpful thing, instead of just kind of trying to, again, this is such a common problem, and it's not likely that we talk about it enough on this campus. I wish we would talk about it more, but it is a common problem, and it's something that doesn't just go away when somebody gets married. I think that's a misnomer. The thought is that porn addiction has to do with sex, and it does not. And so it's really important that you reach out to someone that can kind of direct you to the right resources. Do you have something you were going to add?
Yeah, there's not a particular face to it. It's very common. And there are people who you would not expect who are struggling with that simply because there's so many images and access to images and sexual in nature. So first of all, it's recognizing that don't put anybody in a box and assume that they may not understand what you're going through or feel like there's something wrong with you, that you may be the only one, because it's actually more common than you think since it's so accessible. So I just can't emphasize enough turning to each other and being a community for each other where people feel comfortable to say, I can turn to someone, and I know that if they don't know exactly how to help me, they can be there to check on me. And so it's important to try to find those people and build that around you.
I know Celebrate Recovery at Bayside has a group that's going, and that's seen. I know people that have been through their program that's very, very successful. So you don't have to struggle alone. There are resources out there.
What if you go to somebody and you feel like they may push you away, or they're not, you're just apprehensive? Like, what does that look like?
That's a good question. There's always a risk. There's no guarantee. There is a risk. I mean, sometimes you turn to the people who you think the most that you could trust, and you get a reaction that you're not expecting, and you got to keep going. And if it doesn't work with that person, then get back to the drawing board and see who you can find. And I think the backup plan, the safest thing you can always do is go to the professionals who are here and available to you. You've got Dr. Meg, you've got the psych professors who have practices outside of here. So if you feel like I can't think of anybody in my circle, or I don't want to take that risk, go to the resources. This campus has invested in that for you guys.
Thank you. I'm going to go back to a question about medication, because I think this is important. It's two-part. Is medication healthier for you? And does it mean that I'm not relying on God if I take medication?
I don't know who wrote that question, but thank you very much for that. So let me parse this out. What do you, any more specifics about, is it healthier than what?
It just says healthier for you.
Okay. Okay, let me...
I would assume maybe like in comparison to like just counseling or talking to people.
Okay, so here's what the research says. We have to take you, me, as an individual, and take you and me as an individual based on what the difficulty is or the process is. So for any particular process, there are best practices for that. Some of them include medication, some of them include psychotherapy, and some of them include those two together. Some difficulties, we have options, a lot of them. Other difficulties, no, it's pretty particular, and medication is definitely indicated, meaning if we have some difficulties with reality testing, let's say there's some psychosis, let's say that there's bipolar disorder or schizophrenia or severe depression or severe anxiety. I tell my patients, I tell my students, it's kind of like having a toolbox in front of us. All kinds of wonderful tools in there, but then there's a big lock on that toolbox with a chain around it. If we don't have medication first sometimes in those difficult processes, it's like saying, hey, I've got some great psychotherapy to offer you, but you can't get it unlocked, right? That's only for certain things. Others, we have a variety of ability to treat. And so depending on us, depending on the difficulty, each person and each difficulty has to be separate. It's not a one-size-fits-all, or it's not a rubric where we can put you in and say, here's what you need, right? So take that into consideration, and yes, medication correctly prescribed is absolutely healthy. There are more pros than there are cons.
And it doesn't mean you're not a good Christian if you need medication. I don't think anybody would say a diabetic who is in need of insulin is not a good Christian because they need insulin, right? I hate the fact that there is a stigma with mental disorders and with the treatments of mental disorders, including medication, but it certainly doesn't mean you're not praying enough or that God is angry with you or that you are not a good Christian if you need medication.
That brain of yours is an organ like any other organ, right? So any other organ on our body is prone to living in this world. We live in a fallen world, and that brain is an organ, and sometimes we need medication. And that's absolutely not an issue of Christian or non-Christian. God has given us that ability to provide that.
In fact, mental health is discussed in the Bible. There are many cases where there were people who were struggling with mental illness who Jesus healed or attended to, and he did not set them aside as being different than somebody who is struggling with another ailment or issue. So mental illness is actually normalized in the Bible. We see many cases of people who are just wrought with anxiety and despair and various mental struggles. And so if it's normalized in the Bible, then that gives you an indication that that is not going to keep you far from the Lord. He's very aware of that and has been very intimately acquainted with people who have struggled with mental health issues.
That's good. We had a question about spiritual warfare come through too, so that's good. Thank you. Somebody asked about the counseling on campus and paying. So let me just go over that because I didn't mention it before. The counseling that we offer for you guys is subsidized. So there is a small fee, but we do keep that as low as we possibly can. Depending on which option you choose determines the length, like the time that you have with that particular partner, but it is $10 per session for you guys, okay? So it is really, really inexpensive when we think about some of the lowest sliding scales that some counselors can offer, which at the lowest rate sometimes is $65 to $75 a session. So it's 10.
And the session's about an hour.
About an hour, yes. You get an hour of their time, okay? So it's $10 for you guys. Like I said, the length of time, it depends a little bit on which option you choose, but if you have, for whoever asked that question or for anybody who does have any other questions, you guys can still email care@jessup.edu if you have any other questions about that, okay? So how do you guys deal with stress? What do you do?
First thing, we deal with stress, right? We are not stress-free. We definitely have stress in our lives. I think I'm going to rock your world a little bit because I'm going to say stress isn't bad. It's the degree to which we take that on, right? If you guys didn't have any stress, would you be studying for finals? No, stress is a motivator. So, number one, stress is okay. But in today's world, usually we hear that word and it's pejorative, it's negative because we have too much of it. So putting it in perspective, I think, is the first step, right? How much stress do we have? What do we have in our lives to be able to tackle it? And if we don't, be insightful enough to know that and figure out how to put that into our lives, right? So I talked about that plate. That's what I try to do. I try to keep on my plate those things that I know are healthy for me and not push them off the plate to make room for what I think I need to invest in to tackle that stress.
One thing I do is I verbalize, I talk to people about what is stressing me. You can get so consumed when you're in a highly stressful situation that you can't even see or think clearly. And you need other voices, people speaking into your lives who are looking at it from a different perspective to clarify. I can't tell you how many times I've opened up to my husband or a friend and they're like, have you considered this way? And I thought, I didn't even think about that. Like I was so focused on how big this is that I didn't realize I could go this route with it. And so for me, what I do is I make sure that I talk and let it out in whatever form I can let it out in. Sometimes it's not a very clear, clean discussion. Sometimes it's just me saying like, hey, I'm freaking out. come over or something, whatever it takes. Sometimes you can't even, clearly or eloquently say what's going on. You just sound the alarm.
Final thought, we've got a couple more minutes.
I was just going to say, I start my day every morning with a really good cup of coffee and my Bible in my lap. And that, no matter what's going on in my day, going to be in my day, that's the way I start it, that's important for me.
Thank you. So we've got 2 minutes left before I know you guys are going to be anxiously running out the door. But I did want to just say thank you guys for being so attentive and for all the questions that came through. These were really, really, really good questions, and I'm glad that you guys that you asked them. If there was something that wasn't answered, and it is like a really pressing question that you want to get an answer to, please still email care@jessup.edu. And if it's a question that I can't answer, then you know that there are other experts in the field here who I lean on to ask questions to. So if I don't know the answer, I can absolutely go to them and get the answer, and that way you guys have the answers that you need as well, okay?
And if we don't have the answer, we'll help you find it, though,
Absolutely.
right? Because we lean on each other, and yeah, there's help out there.
Absolutely. So thank you guys again. I just pray that this week is, as it is Wellness Week, that you guys just are more just open and willing, and just have spirits that are open to hear what it is that we are trying to do, me and my lovely interns. We really want to kind of demystify this whole mental health and wellness thing, especially on this campus, because we have a unique addition of our faith that is so much a part of what we do. So I'm just, like I said, I'm super, super thankful for you guys being so attentive. I pray for you all. If you guys do need to talk, or, because we talked about some heavy stuff today. So if you need to talk, please do not hesitate to reach out. And like I said, just thank you guys. And thank you to our panelists.